Welcome to Parna Garden. In today's episode, we will see planting tomatoes from seed indoors and then transplanting them at different stages of growth into larger containers and finally planting them in the ground when the temperature is right in the springtime. To start the seeds indoors, I used Jiffy's organic seed starting mix as the base. Although it had perlite, I added some more perlite, vermiculite, rock dust, and earthworm castings. I also added some green sand and mixed all of these together. This mixture is very dry, so I added some water and mixed it very well. Seeds require moisture to germinate, and preparing a seed starting mix that is slightly moist helps in the germination process. After mixing, I added this seed starting mix into a 6-pack container as you can see here, and I'm going to use this container to start some tomato and pepper seedlings. This year I'm planting a beefsteak tomato, Brandy Boy hybrid tomato. This I had planted last year and it was great. Next is Jubilee tomato and yellow pear tomato. This is a small variety of tomato. Then I have the Brandywine tomato and Super Sweet 100 hybrid. I had planted this last year also. Next is the Early Pick hybrid. This one also was there in my garden last year. Using the pointed end of a screwdriver, I am making indentations at the center of each seed cell. Then I am sowing 2 seeds in each seed cell just to ensure better germination. I label the seed trays and using the round end of the screwdriver, gently press the seeds into the soil. This helps the seeds to establish contact with the soil, which in turn helps them to absorb moisture required for germination. After sowing the seeds and labeling them, I covered the seed tray and set aside for a few days. In a week's time, the tomato seedlings emerged out, and at this point, they must be kept under grow light for 16 to 18 hours. After 4 weeks of sowing, here is a comparison of the seedlings started on January 1st, 2018. At the bottom right hand corner are pepper plants that are considerably smaller in size as compared to tomatoes that were started on the same day. Tomatoes are almost 4 to 6 inches tall and they can be transplanted now into slightly larger containers. After 5 weeks of sowing, I transplanted the tomatoes and peppers into 4-inch containers from their seed cells. On a sunny February afternoon, I kept them in the patio for an hour to harden them off. This Jubilee tomato plant has been growing in this 4-inch container for about 3 to 4 weeks after transplanting it from the seed cell. Today it's time to transplant it again to this 1-gallon pot. It has grown really nice white roots that you see here. I'm trimming down the bottom leaves so that the stem can develop roots and absorb more nutrition when buried slightly deeper into the soil. First, I'm adding some potting mix into the bottom of the pot, and then I'm going to tease out the roots and adjust the height of the plant inside the pot. Then I'm going to add the potting mix from the sides. Before completely filling it with the potting mix, I'm adding some organic fertilizer to the sides as you can see here. Notice that I'm not touching the fertilizer to the stem or the roots so that it doesn't get burnt. Finally, I'm adding some water and some more potting mix, and there you go, you have a transplanted tomato plant. The transplanted tomato plants will grow indoors for 4 to 5 weeks under grow lights before they are planted outside. Tomatoes develop roots rapidly, and if you don't transplant them in time into a larger container, they can get root bound. Here you can see in this 4-inch container, the tomatoes have become root bound and they have coiled around the surface of the container. So I'm teasing the roots out and then transplanting the tomato into the 1-gallon pot here. This batch of potting mix that I prepared already has some fertilizer added into it. So I'm not adding additional fertilizer while transplanting this tomato plant. Fill the container about 1 inch below the surface of the pot and then gently tap it in, and then add some water into the pot. And now it's ready to grow. On warm and sunny days, I place the tomatoes and peppers outside for a couple of hours so that they get accustomed to sunlight and they harden off. If you don't do this with plants that are grown only indoors in grow lights, there is a possibility that the shock of transplant and the shock of sunlight can deteriorate their growth in the first few weeks that they are planted outside. Depending on where you live, the temperature in the evenings and at night can drop rapidly during springtime. This can cause damage to your tender plants and seedlings, and therefore it is necessary to bring them indoors and keep them under grow lights until the danger of last frost has passed. I live in USDA Zone 8A, and in my area, the springtime last frost date is March 24th. That means until then, I will have to take care of my plants under grow lights indoors for the most part. You can look up your USDA zone on the internet and also search for the last frost date based on the USDA zone you are in. It is the 3rd week of March and my tomato plants have grown large enough to be planted in the ground. I have dug a hole about foot deep into the soil and amended it with organic garden lime for calcium, azomite rock dust for trace minerals, organic potting mix, and tomato fertilizer. After mixing all these ingredients, I have planted my first tomato plant in this hole. As I was not able to take the footage of the planting, I'm going to show you how I planted my second tomato plant here. First, I removed the tomato plant from the 1-gallon pot it was in and then loosened up the roots and removed excess soil near the roots. Then I placed the tomato plant slightly slanted into this hole because I would like to cover most of the stem under the soil. This will help the stem to establish roots, and these roots will help in absorbing more nutrition and better growth of the plant. It is important to plant tomatoes at the right time because tomato plants must be established and ready to set flower when the daytime temperature reaches 80s and the nighttime temperature is in the 60s. This is the ideal temperature range for tomato plants to set flower and those flowers to set fruit. If the temperature goes above this range in the summer months, The flowers that come out do not set fruit. I'm also covering this tomato plant with tomato cage so that it gets protection from the wind. After planting the tomatoes, or any plant for that matter, it is important to water it well. I have planted some bell peppers also right next to the tomato plants here because tomatoes and bell peppers are good companion plants. In addition to tomatoes and peppers, there are many other companion plants. You can look them up online. And here you can see I have some more tomato plants planted in these whiskey barrel containers. These tomatoes have been growing very well for 3 to 4 weeks after planting in the ground. However, a cold front and hailstorm on April 6th caused some damage to these tomato plants. The leaves have been shredded and discolored because of the hail and cold damage. Some of the plants that you can see here in the pots also have discolored leaves because of the cold. Most of the leaves that were very badly damaged were taken out of these plants. And although some of these plants have set tomatoes, they are still recovering from the cold and hail damage that was observed last week. Some of these pepper plants have already started setting fruit. However, their growth has become stunted because of the hail and cold damage. Here is a tomato plant that was badly damaged because of the cold front last week, and it has lost most of its leaves. These tomato plants in the whiskey barrel container have discolored leaves because of the cold front last week. And today, that is on April 14th, we have another cold front coming, and the temperature tonight is going to be in the 30s. I hope this does not cause too much damage to these tomato plants. That's all we have in this episode of Parna Garden. Thank you for stopping by. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you have not already subscribed to Parna Garden channel, please hit the subscribe button below. Also, please let me know your thoughts and comments and what kind of videos you would like to see in the Parna Garden channel.